Given tonight's breaking news, Thursday's CNN presidential debate could be more confrontational than the contentious affair many already expect. It'll take place with a remarkable number of potentially historic issues on the table. There are, of course, the former president's crimes and upcoming criminal trials. There's his promise of retribution and vengeance against perceived enemies. The Supreme Court could rule, perhaps even on debate day, on the question of presidential immunity. And today marks the second anniversary of the court overturning Roe v. Wade. With all of that to talk about, we're joined tonight by California Democratic Congresswoman and House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi, thanks for being with us. Yeah. 2 years since Roe v. Wade was overturned. Reproductive rights have been a motivating factor for voters in state elections and ballot initiatives since then. Do you think that will still be the case in November?
Yes, I do, as I did in the last election. In the 22 election, people said, oh, forget it. The Dobbs decision is in the rearview mirror. I said, no, it isn't. It's on the kitchen table. It's right there as an economic issue for people to make decisions about their families, if and when they want to have a family. It's an economic issue. It's a freedom issue. So today, as a temporal marker, 2 years since the Dobbs decision, all over the country, the Democrats are having a drumbeat of support for women. Not to say we, as the Republicans do, we're not for birth control, but we're for controlling women. A big difference. This was one of the accomplishments of his administration. What's his name? When he was there, overturning Roe v. Wade. His other big decision was a tax bill that gave 83% of the benefits to the top 1%. The worst job creation record since Herbert Hoover. At the same time, Joe Biden's, under his leadership, the public and private sector working together, 15 million jobs created. Back to the kitchen table. What's his name says Obamacare sucks. I hate using that language, but not that much. Obamacare sucks. No, it doesn't suck. It cures. And Joe Biden has taken us to a place where we have expanded subsidies to lower cost for more people, and in the IRA bill, taking the cost of insulin from $600 a month to $35 a month for seniors on Medicare. So the cost of living, when we talk about it, we're concerned about it, but we also understand that access to health care and prescription drugs is an important part of that, and certainly the size and timing of our families.
Well, you know, with this debate, incumbent presidents have often stumbled in their first debates. Obama, I mean, the list is a long one. What do you think President Biden needs to do in this debate? Because I mean, we were just having this discussion about a number of those issues which you talked about, and you know, you cited in a way that's very positive for a lot for the president to talk about, but there's a lot of people listening who don't feel their lives are better.
Well, here's the thing, and I say this all the time. People don't vote for you because you say you deserve it for what you have done. What you have done just proves that you can get the job done. And again, you're either giving a tax cut to the top 1%, or you're creating jobs for the mass, an economy that bubbles up and grows from the middle. So I always say to people when you're running, don't talk that you deserve it because of what you've done, but it demonstrates that you're capable. And what Joe Biden will do, he will protect a woman's right to choose. He will, again, continue to expand the economy from the bottom up. He will be there to protect our planet as they are trying to undo what we did before. So we have to protect what we have done, but it's not enough. We need to show where we go from here, right down to that kitchen table. A woman's right to choose, job creation, lowering the cost of education, the list goes on and on.
Some polls have shown President Biden lagging his previous levels of support with key parts of the Democratic base, young people, African-American voters, Latin voters, women. Yeah. What do you, I mean, does that concern you? Does that keep you up at night?
Well, I saw a poll today that said among young people 18 to 30 that Biden was ahead by 23 points, that people did care about a woman's right to choose, LGBTQ and minority issues. They cared about the planet and the rest. So, again, we don't agonize, we organize to get out that vote. As you know, I came up through the ranks as a grassroots political organizer with which said we just have to own the ground in order to win elections. That mobilization requires a message that is inspiring. And I'm so proud of Joe Biden. And by the way, I have a nose for good campaigns. And I am so encouraged by what I smell and see around the country, owning the ground. So I feel pretty optimistic about it, and I feel very proud of Joe Biden, and I know he'll do a good job saying what we're doing next.
You know,
what we're doing next.
I have to ask you about what the former president has been saying about January 6th. The former president has referred to people who've been prosecuted due to the actions they took on January 6th, attacking police officers, breaking into the Capitol. He's referred to them as hostages. He's called them political prisoners. At a recent rally in Las Vegas, he called them warriors. I mean, do you think if he's reelected, he will try to pardon January 6th defendants? But when you hear him use those terms, as somebody who was there and had to flee, I mean, what is that? What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's very sick. I always like to quote our national anthem, that we have to prove through the night that our flag is still there. And we have to prove through all this difficulty of all the misrepresentations that he is putting forth. It's really sad that people even fall for that. But the fact is, we have to prove our flag is still there by showing the difference. We talk about honoring our first responders, our men and women in uniform. Yes, let's do that. Let's not praise and call warriors people who attack them. Well over 100 law enforcement people injured that day. Some died because of that. This is, again, we were there. We saw it. What's tragic is, as horrible as it was, and the members know how horrible it was. These people were coming through the dome of the Capitol that Lincoln built. Lincoln built that during the Civil War, and he said we must continue to build it even though we're at war to show the resilience of America. Lincoln's dome, Nazi and Confederate flags under there. Defecation, disrespect for the people who make the Congress run in terms of the workers. Of course, a threat to all of the members of Congress. They were there, they saw it. Some of them even talked about it that night, but then they changed their mind. For some reason, they've decided to engage in revisionist history about what happened that night. You want me to believe what I see with my very eyes, or you want me to believe what you have to say about it? You, former president, who incited an insurrection on the Capitol of the United States, this beacon of liberty to the world, an insurrection against the Constitution of the United States on a day the Constitution required us to validate the election, an insurrection against the Congress of the United States that now some of those members are changing their tune for some reason. That's why we really just have to go right to why people vote. They vote for what it means to them. What does it mean to the education of my children, the cost of my health care, the fact that I will have a job, what it means to my pension. That's a big contrast between Democrats and Republicans. And in doing so, we can protect our democracy, put to rest these lies that the president is putting forth. It's typical of his lack of respect for the Congress, the Constitution, and the rest by what he did that day and what he's saying now.
Do you have
But I don't think, in other words, that's a responsibility that we have, but how do we win it at the kitchen table?
Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court? I mean, they've yet to rule on this immunity thing, all this thing about Alito and the flags and Clarence Thomas and his wife. I mean, do you have confidence in the Supreme Court?
No, I think they've gone rogue. It's most unfortunate. But it's unfortunate further to see what the other justice, what happened to the Chief Justice? Did he go weak or did he go rogue? I don't know. And that's the same thing with these members of Congress, if I can take it back to that, because as tragic as that night was, and they were coming after me to put a bullet in my head, they were going to hang have a gallows for the Vice President of the United States. But just a matter of hours when I called people back to the floor overwhelmingly, the Republicans voted against the results of the Electoral College. That was almost as heartbreaking and devastating as to see what those slobs that came in with their Confederate flags and their Nazi flags and the rest of what they came in to do to the Capitol of the United States. So no, I don't have confidence in the Supreme Court. I think that some of the decisions I respect their point of view. If they have a point of view about a woman's right to choose, okay, but that's not what they're there to do, to advocate for a point of view. Run for Congress. They're there to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And many of them said in their hearings for confirmation, they said that they supported the precedents of the court. The precedents of the court supported the privacy in the Constitution. And what do? They vote their opinion on policy rather than the oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the United States. So I want us to get back to a place where the three branches of government, as our founders initiated, are respected across the board. But I don't have a lot of confidence in this court, unfortunately. I say that with a heavy heart.
We have to go, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask. The person whose name I shall not say was convicted of the attack on your husband. How is Mr. Pelosi doing?
He's okay. I mean, he's making progress. He's about 80% there physically. Traumatically, it's terrible. But as we pray about it, we're always worried about other people and how the incitement of these people for what the things that they say, the lies that they tell, would incite somebody to come into my home and I just worry about other elected officials, whatever their point of view is, whatever side of the aisle they're on, that they not be subjected to that, because that undermines our democracy in such a very serious way. But what was awful about it, Anderson, was that they made jokes about it. The President of the United States said ridiculous things. The former, what's his name, made ridiculous statements. His son said stupid things. Some of his supporters, and you know who they are, said awful things. And that was very hurtful to us, to our children, to our grandchildren, but more importantly, to our country. Who do they think they are? Well, you know what they are? They're going to be losers in just a few months. Once again, indicted, impeached, convicted, loser again.
Speaker Pelosi, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you.